So again, these are some of the questions that we were able to come up with, and again, thanks for your input and soliciting through our process. So, and again, if there are questions today that we can't address or you think of new questions, I'm going to talk about a website at the end of this presentation that you can go to ask those questions, and we'll ensure that we get those back out to you. So really, here's some of the pressing questions. And actually, our CalCloud webpage is located, and you'll see that in the presentation right there. So that's our URL for additional questions that we'll provide. So we will do our best to answer those questions quickly as we move forward. If there's information today that we don't cover, or get those questions comprehensively answered to meet your needs. So really, in addition to other state entities, and this is the first question, can education cities and counties use the services? And the answer is yes. Other government entities can use CalCloud. At the State Data Center, we also deploy and manage services for some of the cities and counties and educational institutions. So we will be attracting and adopting that line of business as well to expand our capabilities throughout the state of California. When will new IAS rates be published? So as you know, you heard me talk to the renegotiation of the contract and the new reduced rates that we now have for CalCloud Infrastructure as a Service. And we're right now, Department of Finance is reviewing that package, and we'll publish those rates when they are approved. So hopefully that will be coming up shortly. Can I install my system in CalCloud Infrastructure as a Service and offer that service to the state? And again, going back to our CalCloud First policy, we want Cloud IaaS to be the first option considered for enterprise technology solutions, and accordingly we'll consider on a case-by-case scenario, a case-by-case basis to work out the specific logistics. So we'll look at that in terms of that solution. So back to my original answer, again, if it comes down to technical specifications and business requirements, we want to bring business value. And if IaaS can't meet that, then we'll look at other options applicable to deliver and bring that business value. What is the term of the contracts? So there are 3 years for both assessment, migration, and VHSS contracts. So that's what we're looking at right now in terms of the terms and condition of that delivery process. How do providers proceed if they don't agree with the terms and conditions for cloud? The T's and C's, or terms and conditions, are governed by DGS for contracting and procurement. And requests for changes can be done through DGS in that process. What is the dollar value on VHSS contracts? And that dollar value will be based on customer interest. So the answer is it could vary based on the customer interest and the amount of volume that's generated, particularly as applicable to each solution that's offered. What if a customer has already expressed interest in my application, which could be a VHSS? And again, we're going to focus on the first lines of business that we laid out in this presentation, and based on the customers. But that being said, we'll be developing a list right after this of other priorities by customer, and we'll move it through the same process that we're presenting today. And again, we want to be very expedient about this process to ensure we're providing customer value and providing the customers with the solutions and tools they need to do to move their business objectives forward. So we'll move on that quickly. What if the vendor-hosted product I offer is not NIST compliant? As mentioned, NIST is compliant by SIM and SAM conditions for the state, so we have to be able to meet those security standards and compliances moving forward. So all products need to be at minimum NIST compliance to qualify as a VHSS solution. How were the current VHSS vendors selected? Obviously, we have ROD, which is our Remedy on Demand. We have California Project and Portfolio Management by CA, and we have Salesforce. And the initial contracts were competitively bid based on customer requests, again, following the requests of our customers to onboard those processes. Contact vendor directly to discuss this question. What local, state, or federal security compliance is required to be selected to CalCloud? And again, CalCloud provides NIST compliance. And we are working on, for infrastructure as a service, we are now meeting the federal guidelines for FedRAMP compliance. And so we're looking long-term on what that means to be compliant or certified. So that's very important to the data center moving forward. Will CalCloud services to end user departments include Office 365 or Desktop as a Service, which is DaaS, as a current or near-term requirement? And right now, CDD is looking at Office 365 as a vendor-hosted solution. We want an enterprise solution offering the state. Procurements from Microsoft operating systems or other software sometimes is procured 134 different times. We think we could be more efficient and effective by doing it as a leverage procurement downstream, thus saving the state money and being more efficient on how we bring business value to the customer. So that's something we're going to be focusing in on. In terms of cloud-based VDI, we're still looking at that, so that's something that we'll have to look at and assess long-term moving forward within that particular area. Can a vendor provide assessment and migration service to multiple customers using the same contract? The answer is yes, as long as the supplier has the ability and the availability of skilled resources in which to do the work. What if the vendor only wants to do assessments and not migrations? Is that possible? The contract is really structured to provide both services, but if the customer only needs one of these services, then the statement of work will need to be tailored based on that vendor quote, on that specific work authorization or statement of work. Again, we're trying to make this as seamless as possible, as easy as possible to engage customers and ensure that the work and the deliverables get done correctly. That's really our motivation here. All right, again, thank you very much for coming. I wanted to thank, obviously, my co-presenters, Marnell, Marlon, and Jim Butler from DGS. Thanks very much. And hope to talk with you soon. Thank you.